Helen with a Pilates class. If you've got weights, then grab them. If you've got a foam roller, long or short, then grab it. But if not, don't worry. Grab a fat cushion or a pillow or something, and I'll show you what to do with that instead. As ever, listen to your body. If it doesn't feel right for you, but I'm saying do it, then ignore me and listen to your body. Try and tweak it, modify it, and normally that's changing that pelvis position, so finding that neutral. But if that doesn't sort it, then ignore me. There'll be options throughout, so take them so that you can focus even on your form. All right, Lola, a little grunt from her. Right, let's get going. Music. So, coming on to your mat. Onto your mat, feet together, and then walk toes out and heels out. No, you're right in the way there. Come on. Here we go. So feet are hip width apart. Think about lengthening up through the spine, open through the collarbones, lengthen through the back of the head. So this is that little nod. So instead of chin being forward, you think about little nod, so you've got that length through the back of the neck. Soften through the knees and then hands bridging rib to hip, and we'll get going with that pelvic tilt. So you're thinking about lengthening tail downwards or bringing hips to ribs, and then rolling hips away to stick tailbone out. So shorten that contraction, hip to rib, and lengthen. Or you can think about sticking tailbone out and lengthening tailbone down. You might want hands on your hips for this. You might want to do as I just had, bridging them from hip to rib. You might want them onto rib cage to check that that's staying nice and chilled and the movement's coming from the pelvis. And shoulders want to stay nicely stacked over ribs. So to find your neutral, you want to think about gently bringing hips to ribs to gently lengthen tailbone down, and then lengthen through the legs. Check here though, you can still breathe fully into that belly. So as you take a breath in, you can feel the belly and the rib cage expand, and as you expand even as you breathe out, Lola, relax everything back down. So you should be able to breathe here without it changing that pelvic position, but you shouldn't feel like locking everything down and gripping. It should just be that gentle lengthening. So that is your neutral, and we'll keep coming back to that. So getting nice and warm, we're going to inhale, shrug the shoulders up. Exhale, release down and slide to the side, back up. Inhale up, exhale and slide other direction. We'll go again, inhale up, exhale, glide, inhale up, and exhale, glide. We'll go again, we'll open up on the top hand or arm. Inhale up, exhale, create length and tension between the two hands. Other side, inhale and exhale. Once more in the direction, inhale and exhale. Inhale up and exhale. You've been very restless, Lola. And back into centre. Dumb waiter. So think about open through the collarbone, still got that neutral through the bottom half, and we open through the hands. So here you're focusing really on opening through the front of the chest rather than it being a squeeze through the shoulder blades, because if I do that, I just pop my ribs forward. And we want it to be an opening rather than a squeeze. Option, heel raise, draw those ankle bones in. So just check in whether you can still keep that neutral rib alignment or rib to hip connection. Still breathing, directing that breath down to the belly and the rib cage. Next one, we're going to open up Cleopatra. So we lengthen with palms down, turn palms back up, come in. And that's with or without the raise onto those toes. So your choice there. Real think about length there. One more. Foot or walking series, I should say. So releasing through the right heel, and we're going to switch. So you're coming up and down. So imagine you're powering up, coming down. So just check in, can you do this and keep that neutral through the lower spine and pelvis. And then imagine you're in a really low ceilinged room. So we don't want to let the head bob up and down now as we're rippling through the ankle, knee and hip. Still pinging right up onto those tiptoes. Couple more here. We're going to take this to a standing tabletop. So we're going to power up, single leg tabletop. Come back down, little squat, other side. Power up and down. So keep going here. So what you're looking for is you still can keep that neutral. So you've still got that lengthened tailbone down. And as you move, that stays nice and still. Just so we're separating out hip movement from spinal movement. Couple more. And then holding it there. If you take a step back with your right leg, feet hip width apart so you're nice and stable, and then soften through both legs. We're going to do bow and arrow here, so taking both arms forward. You're going to draw the right arm back, have a look behind, and slide hand forwards. Other direction, other side. Can't get my words out. And again, this time option to open the hand fully to the back before refolding and coming forward. Other side, you draw it back. Option, open out through the arm, coming back forward. And again. So have a look where the hand's going. Get that nice twist through the spine. Step it in and we'll swap the legs over. So stride it back. I've just seen the hair Lola's deposited on my leggings. Dog hair. Right, soften through both legs. Check if you've still got that lengthened tailbone down. So often we tend to dip forward. So still think about that lengthening of the tailbone down so you've got your neutral. Floating arms forward. And we'll draw back on the left. Keep it elbow bent to begin with. Other side. And then option to open out fully. So lengthen through the arm. Refold. Other side. Once more, both directions. And step it in. Full roll down, so chin to chest. Imagine you're peeling down off that wall. Soften the knees as much as you need. Release the head. Stack it back up, so ground strongly through the feet. Stack back over the hips. Ripple through the spine. Coming to find that neutral again. Once more, chin to chest. Really see if you can separate out that spinal movement. Feel the stretch through the spine. Folding forwards. Release the head. Little bit of a sway. Stack it back up. Press the floor away. Be strong through the legs. Roll it on up. Lovely. We'll start lying down for a section. And this, have the weights down by you. One of these, either side, my words, one on the side of the mat. If you have them. If you've got your roller, grab it. If you have not, grab a cushion. And I'll talk you through your options. So coming down onto your mat. Oh, my head's right. So we're going to have feet quite nice and close to your bottom. Finding that neutral, so you still want to think about hips coming to ribs, to press the lower back into the mat, and you'll gently feel lower abdominals kicking in there. And then roll hips forwards, really arch that lower back, but ribs stay soft, so I'm not pushing up through the rib cage. So again, hip to rib, press into the lower mat. And then roll away. And then find your neutral, so you're gently drawing hips to ribs, so you'll feel your back flat on the mat, but you're not pressing it hard down into the mat. So weights, if you have them, we're going to work with a bridge. So you're going to think about hip to rib even more, so you are pressing that lower back into the mat now to hover the bum. press them through the heels, ripple up through the spine into your bridge. The more you press through the heels, the more the bum and the backs of the legs are going to be working. So from here, we're going to fly arms out to the sides and draw back in. Keep going here. Make sure you're breathing. So if you find this a tricky one, then pressing the pillow between your knees is actually going to help you recruit. So grab that and stick it between the knees. Or just focus on squeezing in as well as pressing through those heels. If you're feeling this into your lower back, you've lost that tuck. So lower down, tuck under again with that tailbone, bringing hips to ribs and then press back up. Bringing the arms back up to the ceiling. Have a roll down here if you need a breather. And we're going to swap to toy soldier. So we take one arm high, one low. And switch. So keep a check in here that that rib cage doesn't want to pop. Steady breath. Waking those legs up. Couple more. And then we're going to roll it down. So roll them down. Drawing one knee toward chest, then the other. And popping weights down. So if you have foam roller, you're going to position this under your bum. And then we're going to walk one leg into tabletop, then the other. So have a little play and see where you want it. It should be higher than your sit bones or your tailbone. And then have a play with finding that neutral on here. If you don't have a foam roller, grab your chunky cushion, fold it in half and stick it under your bum. So I'm still raised, not quite as much, and actually you could go another cushion here. And you're going to be more stable on a cushion, but it's still going to raise us up because I want us to be able to work past neutral into hip extension. So take your option and come into that double tabletop position. So you need to be control of this rib to hip connection here. If you feel everything wants to arch and lengthen, bring your heels to your bum to lessen that demand. And then work on where you've got that control. So from here, we're going to tap down and come back up. Other side. So breathe out to tap, breath in to return, or just make sure you're breathing. The closer you tap, the less demand on the abdominals. The further you tap, the more demand to keep that rib to hip connection so nothing shifts through your middle. The higher up you are on, keep going there, the higher up you are on something, the more you're going to have challenge to work into an extended hip position. So it's going to challenge even more. So you really have to engage those abdominals. Don't brace, they'll naturally kick in if you're controlling that rib to hip connection. If you want more here, you can bring the arms into play and lengthen overhead as you tap. Breathe it out, breath in. So find your challenge, whether that's tapping close or lengthening out. Steady breath out as you lengthen, in to return, or just keep breathing. Couple more there, and we're going to move on, and we're going to cycle the legs. So staying on the roller or your pillow. So we're going to cycle these. So we're going to take one leg up, and bend the other, and then cycle round. So I want you to see how far you can lengthen one leg before you cycle up and round. So really have tension through the legs. Nice and steady. You can bring arms back into play here if you want and have them up to the ceiling. More abdominal challenge. Lengthen overhead but keep them off the floor. That will switch on higher up the abdominals. So keep breathing, really try and lengthen the leg We're going to reverse it. So you're scooping in and then away now. So keep it nice and slow and controlled. Still breathing. Couple more. And then when you're ready, knees in towards chest, popping those weights down. And then we're going to remove that cushion or your roller and come onto your side. So we're going to work with side kick today, but I'm going to give some variations to it. So you can be down head onto your pillow, or you can be propped. We're going to lengthen out through the legs on this. So you want your feet just in front of you and you want to be off that bottom hip bone. So you've got to roll it forward so you're not on that bony point. Tension through the legs. We're not sinking into that shoulder. Press the floor away so we're active on our underside and into that shoulder. Lengthen through the head. Lengthen the head to the wall so you're not holding it up towards the ceiling. So what we're going to work on here is floating top leg to hip height. Before we do that though, draw that top hip away so we're nice and lengthened. We've got top hip over bottom. Imagine I've got that foot and I'm pulling it away from you to keep that tension. So from here, we point and kick forward, you fold and come back. You keep a check of that rib to hip so we don't let the ribs pop. And keep going. You can have hand just forward to control, but make sure we don't get tension into the shoulder or collapse through the middle, just so you get everything working as hard as possible. If this is too tricky on the balance, you can bend that bottom leg, but try and keep it straight because I'm going to add one more level to this. So steady breath. Your focus is that you're staying nice and strong through the hips. So that should be a challenge. Lower abdominals should be kicking in. If your leg's up here, you collapse through the middle and lost that extra benefit you can get from this. Kicking back, keep control of that rib to hip, bottom leg active, coming back into center, relax it down. Bend it if you want to have a little breather, and I'll show you an optional next level. So instead of leaving that bottom leg behind, we're going to pick both legs up. So you really need to be off that bottom hip for this, because otherwise you'll know about it. So my both feet are off the floor. Obliques are working overtime. We're going to do the same thing. So you might want to keep feet flexed for both, or just keep the bottom leg flexed as you point and kick that top. So really up the demand for those obliques now. As you can see, a bit of tension's creeping into my shoulder. Really has to control on the way back. Think swan. Good, draw it back. If it gets too much, just pop that bottom leg down. Maybe you can go one way, not the other. So maybe you can keep it off the floor one way, have to put it down to kick back, or vice versa. So see what you can do. 2 more. Breathe. If you want a real challenge, float top arm off. I'm going to fall over here. Oh, obliques really having to work. Good work. Relax down. Stagger those legs. Press on up. We're going to do a mermaid to help ease out those obliques that have worked. Hands to the floor. Press the floor away. Press the ribs to the side. Couple of breaths here. Other direction. Try and keep both sit bones down towards the floor. Once more. Other direction once more. And then we're switching round to other side. So if you head down on the floor, grab that pillow. If you're propped, then you are with me. Lengthen through the legs, roll off forward so you're off that bottom hip. press the floor away, lengthen the head, and draw that top hip. Feet are flexed, bottom leg is nice and active. So our first option, floating leg to hip height. I am pulling that foot so we're not collapsing underneath. And then we float forward and kick back. Rib to hip control, so don't pop those ribs. You want the extension coming from the hip and not the ribs. There will be a little bit of sway, but you're trying to control it as much as possible while still breathing. So hand can be off the floor, it can be down for that little extra bit of support. Check that foot's not heading towards the floor. Keep it hip height or just a touch higher. And breathe in. Right, one more, then we'll option to add off that bottom leg. So have a little breather if you want, if you're aware that's been working. Lengthening out through the legs. Check your setup again, really press through that shoulder, it's going to be working hard for you. Draw that top hip, and then we're lifting off. If you can't get a full lift off, even if you just imagine being lighter on that bottom leg, then that's going to increase that oblique activity. So from here, keep that bottom leg really active as we float forward and kick back. And chances are it's got a lot wobblier now. Coming forward and back, and you might be very different one side to the other. Breathe. So you can see my top arm now is having to work a lot harder. So you've got that option if you want that real challenge. See, I can't even do that this side without really cheating. So do pay attention to form, just so you get the most from the exercise. One more, if you can. Breathe. Ah, good work. So from here, press on up to our mermaid. Ooh, which way did I go first? Last one. Way. So press into the floor, send the ribs to the side, lift up and over. Breathe. Swing it up and over. Really direct that breath down to the rib cage, the belly. And again, so make sure the belly is relaxed. Let the rib cage expand every direction. One more. And release off here. So we're going to come onto all fours now. So it doesn't matter which direction you face, being very indecisive there. So you're going to have hands just forward of shoulders, knees truly under hips, so don't go too narrow with that. Few cat-cows here, so think about pressing through the hands, lift through that rib cage, tucking under on the pelvis, look between the knees. Release your head, uncurling, stick your tailbone out, drop through the belly, through the rib cage, still press the hands into the floor firmly so we're not sinking through the shoulders, looking forward. And again, just make sure you're breathing. And curl. And back into finding your neutral. So nice flat back here. So I'm going to give you some options. We're going to work with one leg at a time. And we're going to just hover one knee off the floor. Press into the floor with the foot that's still on the mat to make you nice and stable. From here, you're going to think about keeping that neutral back. And we're going to kick foot towards ceiling. From there, see if you can lift, but don't lose that neutral. So we're not aiming for height and dipping through the middle, but you just got that feeling of lift. We're going to fold back in, keeping that neutral, and again, that press. So you can have foot flexed or pointed, your choice. So you can keep going here, or you can tuck toes on the other side, hover both knees up, and work from here. So you lift, you fold, aiming to keep that neutral. Keep breathing. So do a few repetitions until you've had enough. Aiming to get that knee high, because that's that glute working. And then when you've had enough there, press it back into shell or child's pose. Give those wrists a wriggle, and we'll go the other side. So coming back onto all fours, knees nice and wide. So other knee now. Press the floor away through the hands. Find that neutral. Hover off on the other knee. Focus on that rib-hip connection, not shifting. As you try and send the knee high, you'll feel the glute kick in there. And lower down. Keep going here. What I didn't say on the other side, it's really easy to achieve this. Stick your bum to the side so you're no longer stacked under that bottom leg. So if I turn sideways, then what we tend to see is people leaning out. So try and keep stacked, and that will switch on the glutes strongly on that support leg as well. So if you're happy there and you want a little bit more, tucking the toes on the other support leg, hover the knee up and work from here. Keep pressing strongly through the hands. Squeeze that extra inch. If you can, breathe. And when you've had enough, you can head back to that shell or child's pose. So knees nice and wide, press it back and give those wrists a wriggle. And then you can have your challenge to get off the floor without using your hands. Grab your weights if you have them, and we'll come to standing. So we're going to go back to our first series with dumbwaiter and Cleopatra and add some further balance things onto it. So feet hip width. Find that neutral, so lengthen tailbone down, open through the collarbone, lengthen through the back of the head. Palms are up, and we're just going to open and reclose. So check in here, we don't let those ribs flare as we open the hands up. Option, heel raise up, draw those ankle bones in, so we're not rolling out onto those ankles. So we're going to add that Cleopatra. So palms come down, lengthen, refold. So hopefully with weights in your arms, you're starting to feel a little bit more engagement through between your shoulder blades and a bit lower. Options, hold here. Little pulses. Feel free to drop the heels any point. The more you squeeze your weights, the more you're going to feel into the shoulders. Still got that neutral rib to hip. Drawing those ankle bones in, you'll feel the bum switch on more. If shoulders don't like this, come lower or shorten lever. Keep breathing. And then we're going to lower down. Few shoulder rolls. And we're going to come back to that dumbwaiter position. Rib to hip connection, get light onto that right leg. Think about hip staying level so we're not dipping down into that support leg. So you think about lifting up to float that leg. We're going to dumbwaiter and fold. We're going to take that to Cleopatra, an option to lengthen through that leg and fold. So you can keep low with the knee, or you can come into that tabletop position and lengthen out. Try, if you're lifting the knee higher, to make sure you keep that neutral. It's tempting to go for height and then collapse. So you want to stay strong. Breathe out as you lengthen. Breath into fold. Couple more there, and then we'll swap legs. So lighten up through the other side now. Lift through the hips so they're still nice and level, lifting out of that support leg, and come to that dumb weights position. So just get your balance here, and then when you're ready, take it to that Cleopatra and lengthen through the leg. And then work into your range to challenge the abdominals, challenge the leg, and balance. See if you're the same one side to the other or not. Breathe. Ooh, she says falling over. So find a vision point that helps keep that balance. Last couple, and then give it a little shake once you've done. How do you feel? Last standing exercise then, and we'll have a little bit of cool down. So we're going to sit back into a bit of a squat. So check your rib to hip connection. So you've got that lengthened tailbone. Feet can be hip width, pressed together, whatever's more comfortable for you. And then you lead the movement sitting back with the bum. So check that you've then not lost that tuck and you've got that ski jump, so think hip to ribs or lengthen that tailbone down to find that neutral. If you're not sure, do a few pelvic tilts and where feels right for you. And then come into your range. We're going to do plough, so palms are facing back to really target into triceps here. So we stay strong through the centre, breathe out, press it back. Breath in to return. So breathe out, breath in. So the higher you press, you should feel lower abdominals kicking in to keep you nice and neutral and still. If you're not feeling much, try a heavy weight if you have it. If not, we can hold here, little pulses. Keep breathing, looking for minimal sway. Still breathing, shoulders down away from the ears. Still length through the spine, through the back of the neck. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release, roll on up. Popping the weights down. And then we'll have a little bit of a cool down. Feet wider than hip width. Roll down from here, chin to chest. Release your head at the bottom, sway to one foot, and then your other. Stay over onto one side. We're going to roll up facing that one foot. So roll on up. Lengthen arms at the top. Twist to your other foot and roll it down. Release your head. We go again, so roll up facing that foot, lengthen arms in the centre, twist the other direction, roll it down. Stay low, roll it back into centre, and then stack it on up through the middle here. Wriggle the feet in, hip width. Find that neutral, corkscrew, taking hands wide, elbows stay wide, check in with ribs that they're melted down, shrug shoulders up, and release, and lower, and again. Shrug it up, release, and lower. One more. We're going to add a spine twist onto this, so shrug it up, Release, hold it here. We're going to keep ours nice and wide, no pressure onto the head. Twist it around one direction, keeps hips pinned to the front, so press the hips forward. Feel that stretch mid-back. Breath in and out. Back into centre. Shrug it up here and down. Checking rib to hip, still got that neutral. Press the hips forward, twist the other direction. Are you the same? Is there a big difference? Back into centre. Shrug it up. Release and lower the arms. Couple of shoulder rolls and bring the arms into play here and get bigger, and then let that rib to hip connection lengthen. Everything you've been working on hard at controlling, let it go. And then bring the knees in. We're going to get lower and we're going to switch to opening out through the back and softening the arms forward. So reach with the arms, lift the chest, arch the back and curl forward, collapse down. And again, lift, look up and then collapse down, looking down. 2 more. Last one. And relax. And we are done. Hope you enjoyed the session. As ever, give me any questions, comments, let me know what you want and I will get that recorded. Thank you, and I can't wait for us all to be back together